My advice is to really communicate what you need and don't let people overstep your boundaries. And you really come first because your recovery, your mental health, your well being comes first. Welcome to Brick Breakers, the podcast where we break down the walls holding us back from becoming the strongest, happiest version of ourselves. Now let's start breaking those walls. All right, hey guys. So I am back. It's been a month and I was induced, so I had my baby early, and we're in a different room today. We are in my office because my room was taken over by the baby. So I've been trying to record this podcast episode a lot of times, but there's always been a reason why I haven't been able to record this. Like, I'm breastfeeding, I'm way too tired, I rarely sleep now, and right now it's past 10 p.m. and I'm going to try to squeeze this podcast in while I can because it's going to be time to feed any minute now. Also, I've been really tired, so it's taken like every self will power inside of me, the last bit of juice to sit down and record this, even though I really enjoy it when I start recording. I'm just too tired. And plus, I was trying to look nice, like decent, not look like I just came out of a dumpster. So I was trying to look decent too, like stay looking nice throughout the day so I could record this. Okay, so welcome back to Brick Breakers. I'm Linda Mendez Adams, and today's episode is going to be labor fears and the aftermath, or labor fears and what comes next, or labor fears and yeah, I don't know, something around the lines of that. I still haven't decided on the title, but by now I would have decided on it. So labor can be a terrifying thing because there's a lot of what ifs, and this episode is going to be about how I prepared, how I shift my mindset, how I built my confidence so that I wasn't full of anxiety when the day came, which is kind of funny because I was induced, as I mentioned earlier, and yeah, I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't have my hospital bag ready, and it was a pretty sad moment for me just because it was unexpected. But let's get into why I was afraid of labor. I mean, I'm sure many of you can imagine why. So before I go into that, I do want to say my birth plan. So I was going in, I didn't want to have an epidural. So I wanted to have a natural birth. I didn't want anything to interfere with the baby, with me. I've heard that if you get epidural, there's a chance of you becoming permanently numb, or not numb, paralyzed in your back, and then having a lot of back pain later in the future. And there's just a lot of things that I heard about epidurals that I didn't want to happen to me. So I was like, okay, I'll just not get epidural and I won't have to deal with any of that, right? Okay. Well, spoiler alert, I did get an epidural. And I didn't want an induction because I wanted my labor to be natural. So an induction is just pretty much they speed up your labor, and an epidural is they numb you from the waist down so you don't feel pain. And then so you don't feel contractions, which are pretty much like really intense cramps. At least that's how people describe them. And then the way that I was going to prepare was, or the way I did try to prepare was doing home stretches, like stretches at home. And then I also heard of prenatal massage. Prenatal? I don't know. I never learned how to say that. Which is pretty much trying to stretch your area down there, you know, so that when the baby comes, it's kind of stretched and it's not just a shock. And then online classes, which I did do online couple classes to learn about the process of, you know, having a baby, but also how to prepare and what to buy. I also went to a clinic and they had classes every once in a while that I went with my husband so that we can learn more about the baby, like how to breastfeed, what to expect, just pretty much everything we needed to know to prepare, like for the baby to be here and after the baby was here. And I also had an at-home nurse come to my home every week, and then it changed to every 2 weeks. And she just pretty much taught me everything that, you need to know about how to take care of a baby and how your body changes and what to expect and things to prepare for. And also asking friends and family about their experience and how it went for them and what I can expect. So that was my plan. That's how I was preparing. That's what was going on in the background before I went to my usual doctor appointment, and they told me that my amniotic fluid was low. So pretty much the fluid that's around the baby in your placenta. I don't know. I'm honestly, I'm tired, and it's been a while that I've gone over all these things. So if I don't get the names correct, excuse me. And for most first time moms, it's a lot to learn and take in too. So I can just refer to them as where the baby is born or grows, where the baby grows. Okay, so where the baby grows, the fluid that's around them to help them move around, and they also swallow that fluid and pee it out and swallow and pee it out, which is kind of gross, but that's what they do so that they can start practicing swallowing. And they're connected through the umbilical cord, so that's how they're breathing, so they won't like drown in the fluid or anything like that. So I went to my appointment. He told me I was low, and he checked with the ultrasound, and he said he had mentioned to me before that he has sent another woman to the hospital because she was low on fluid. And usually, I mean, it happens because you don't stay hydrated, but there's also other factors that could play into your amniotic fluid being low. But I don't know. I was drinking coffee, and there's nothing wrong with drinking coffee, but I know that coffee dehydrates you. And I'm not the kind of person that really drinks a lot of water. So, yeah, I thought maybe that was why my amniotic fluids were low. So I drank 64 ounces after he told me that of water. And that was not enough, because I ended up going to the hospital again after he had told me my amniotic fluid was low. I went to the hospital, and then the next day I went. I didn't go back to the hospital. I drank a lot of water, and then I went back on Wednesday. So Monday I was told, Tuesday drink water, Wednesday went back to the hospital, and they told me I was going to be induced, which it was a shock for me, because I really thought drinking a lot of water was gonna help, because my amniotic fluid wasn't like super low, but it was like on the lower end. So yeah, I kind of didn't really take it too well, just because I had my birth plan, like I mentioned to you guys, of not having any, how do I say it, interference with the natural birth process. So I was upset, and I ended up crying because I was afraid and worried. There was a chance of me needing a C-section if the induction didn't go well, but the induction did go well. And I was just really, really worried, and I hadn't mentally prepared for something like that. I always was open-minded, to every time I took any of my classes and I was learning about birth, I was open-minded to getting epidural or having a C-section or being induced. And I just didn't look into it too much because I had a lot going on. Being pregnant is not as easy as it may seem to some people. I had a lot of pains. I had to watch what I ate, make sure I drank water. I was really tired. I was taking classes. I was still working. I stopped working after a while, but I was still working. I just was balancing a lot. And I also I'm kind of a procrastinator, but I'm working on not being a procrastinator. So I waited a lot until like the last classes that I needed to take, which talked more about being induced and stuff like that. Even though I took a lot of classes and did a lot, for the course that I bought online for the couples course, we didn't finish it. And the baby came 2 weeks early. So I thought I still had time. I was like, because most people say to start doing certain things in your pregnancy like a month before you're going to have your baby. I had the baby shower that took a lot of mental energy and also physical energy because I was already big by this point. So moving around took a lot out of me and it was painful. And I had a lot of back pain, and it's already it's already been like almost a month. So a lot of the things that I went through are kind of behind me now. And also I'm pretty tired. My brain is like mush. So I really don't sleep too well. I wake up a lot. I'm breastfeeding. So yeah, like my schedule is all over the place. Like I get up at noon because I go to sleep like at 1 a.m. and I wake up every 1 to 3 hours to breastfeed. And breastfeeding is no joke. Like I thought breastfeeding was going to be a breeze, but we'll get into that later. So I got induced, and what I was afraid of before I go into pretty much everything that I went through, like my whole labor experience, which wasn't bad. I know that there's a lot of trauma around labor. A lot of people have traumatic labor, but my experience, I would say, was really good. And the things I was afraid of was the pain of the contractions, the pain of the baby coming out, and just overall pain, like needles being put in my skin. But you know what? One of the things that I did not know that was actually very, very painful for me personally was a cervix check. So seeing if how like dilated you are. Not, I don't know if they refer to it as being dilated, but pretty much the area where the baby's going to come out, like how soft it is and if it's getting bigger. I don't know. I always got confused of like the terminology of if it's getting bigger and softer. There was always two different ways to refer to those two things. Like it's getting soft and it's getting bigger. Maybe it was both. The bigger it got, the softer it got. Honestly, it's been a month and I haven't really slept. So yeah, I don't know. Okay. I was afraid of it tearing down there and then putting stitches. And I also heard that sometimes they put needles in there to numb the area to sew it. And I was also afraid of pooping because I heard that when you're pushing, you can poop. So I was like, that'd be kind of embarrassing. Are they going to wipe? Then they not going to wipe? Is my husband going to see? Is he not going to see? How many people are going to be in there? Is there going to be like 8 people, 5 people? Am I going to have my doctor? Am I going to have a different doctor? Is it going to be a woman? Is it going to be a male? Because I didn't want to have a male, but then they ended up switching me doctors and I did have a male doctor, but then the day of it was a woman. So yeah, it was like all these things I was thinking about. And then another thing I was afraid of was being pretty much naked the whole time. I heard that with the gown, your butt's always like hanging out, and then everyone's always checking down there and putting their hand up there, and that was the most painful part. They put their hand up there and then they check like to see how dilated you are and how soft your cervix is. And that was really painful for me. It's kind of funny because they always I would ask like, hey, is this gonna be painful? And they would say you're gonna feel pressure. Like, they would always refer to pain as pressure to, I guess, not make you scared. But we ended up catching on whenever they say, oh, it'll be a pressure, because it was always pain. So that was the most painful part that I don't remember learning anything about from all the classes I took and all the questions I asked and all the research I did. I never learned about that. I guess that was at the end of the course that I bought online that I didn't get to towards the end. And then I guess the like last fears would have been life changes, like my career, how that was going to go with a new baby, my personal goals. Was I going to be able to work out? Was I going to be able to still continue to do marketing and photography? How was my schedule going to work? And that I didn't study enough. That was another fear. Not studying enough and knowing how to take care of the baby. Like, not knowing how to take care of the baby. So now, after telling you about like all my fears, and hopefully maybe there's some of the fears. I feel like most fears of labor we can all relate to as women. And for the men, it's just, are you going to be able to be there for your significant other? And I mean, I can't say, because I'm not the guy in the relationship, so I can't say really what guys go through. But from what my husband told me, he mentioned he was just worried about me being in pain and him not being able to help me or knowing what to do. And just the what ifs, or like the unknowns, is pretty much the fear. But what I would say to that is just communication and having a plan, a birth plan, and finishing your courses more than a month before your due date, because, inductions can happen or other things can happen. So you guys feel more prepared, and hopefully that relieves some stress. Okay, so back to my experience of how it went. So I was induced. They had me in one room, and then they moved me to another room. Also, I just want to add this real quick, because I feel like for a mom to be, there's a lot of questions. We went a little bit like, well, we were planning to go to the hospital to get a tour, right? Before everything. But we ended up getting a tour because my amniotic fluid was low. So we're like, oh, this is a good thing, because now we could do a little tour and we don't have to do it later and plan a day. But little did we know that I was going to be induced. We're kind of hopeful that I wouldn't have been. So we figured out where the parking was, and you can park like in the front and then get down, and they can bring you a wheelchair out to you, and then your partner or someone that's going with you can park pretty much while they leave you in the front. But what we did, because I was being induced, we just parked in the parking structure that was near the hospital, and then we walked inside. We went to the front desk, we said what we were there for, and then they just told us where to go, labor and delivery, and what level it was at in the hospital. And then they have a room, like a separate room, where they check, pregnant women, they check them out. And then they take you to another room, pretty much where you're going to have your baby. So I was in that room, and then one of the nurses gave me the news. The doctor said, yes, induction. They moved me to the other room. A couple of minutes later, the doctor came in, told me everything that was going to happen, the pros and the cons, that it was my decision. So it's always your decision whether you're going to go through with something that they're recommending or you're not going to. So if I didn't want to be induced that day, I didn't have to. So I ended up, deciding to went through my emotions and everything. And the induction, they give it to you in a pill, or they put it up your area. And the pill one just dissolves in your cheek, or the other one is painful because they have to like put their hand up there and put it in there. I'm guessing it dissolves too. So I got the pill one in my mouth first, and Then they came, they checked my cervix to see if it was softening, and then they gave me another one later, but I kept going up. So it starts like at like, I don't know, Cheerio size, and then it goes all the way up to like, I don't know, apple size or something like that. And every couple hours I kept going up and up and up. Like my cervix kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that was good. But it was not fun getting the pill up there. And the nurses kept changing. So every, I don't know, like 8 hours or however long a shift is, I got a new nurse. So I had like 6 different nurses because the induction took the longest. It took like 2 days or something like that. And then by the end of the second day, they did Pitocin, which is pretty much where your body, they start having contractions happening. I was already getting contractions before. Then like when the induction, you could get contractions, but some people don't. But I was already getting minor contractions, which is like a sharp pain in your, above your bladder or below your bladder. Yeah, below your bladder. And kind of like how to explain it? It's just like tightening, like really tightening, and kind of sharp pain, but it wasn't too bad. It was just uncomfortable. And I couldn't sleep because it was painful, and I didn't want to take anything for it because I was like, oh, well, I could still do this. Like, I still don't need epidural, which is, the thing to reduce the pain, or for you to not feel anything. You don't feel any contraction pain. And I thought, no, I could do this. Like, if I'm going to feel this amount of pain, then this is doable. So I was practicing my breathing techniques, moving around on the ball. I wasn't allowed to leave the room and walk somewhere because because of my low amniotic fluid, they wanted to supervise me or watch me to make sure the baby was okay, the baby's heartbeat was well, and I was doing well. So I wasn't able to leave the room, and they had the monitor attached to me, or the thing what are they called? I don't know what they're called, but they pretty much, you could hear the baby's heartbeat. It's like these, I don't know what they're called. They put them on your stomach, and then you can hear the baby. And I was having a hard time moving around because those are connected through cables. And then I asked if they could give me something else that wasn't connected through cables, like monitors that you didn't need cables, which that part was painful because they pretty much scraped my skin off to like exfoliate it, but it was not exfoliating. It was like scraping my skin off, which was really painful. And then like taping this monitor on, 4 little monitors on, and that didn't even really work because the connection kept disconnecting while I was trying to do my stretches and move around in the labor ball. So that didn't work out, and I just ended up going back to the wired monitors and trying to pace back and forth while I held the wires in my hand, pacing back and forth in that room. And they also brought food to me if I asked for it. I didn't the first day and a half. I didn't ask for food because I didn't really know I could get it. But then, and then also being induced, sometimes you can't eat because you might, throw up. So, and if you end up having a C-section, like I mentioned earlier, if you're induced, there's a chance of you needing a C-section because the baby cannot be stable. So they'll need to, bring the baby sooner because the baby's heart rate could go down and the induction cannot go well. But I'm very blessed and fortunate, thankful that it did go well. So where was I? I said, oh, I'll take the food because I was letting my husband go out and get food for us, but it'd take a long time and I didn't want him to leave because I was going through pain, and I was also nervous and worried, and it helped me having him there. Like, it reduced my anxiety, and having him to talk through everything I was going through just it reduced my anxiety. So it was really nice to have him there, and I didn't really want him to leave. So the food there at the hospital was good. I really liked it. And let's see what you can expect for the food. They bring you like different kinds of portions. I guess they give you like, sometimes they give you the veggies, the carbs, the couple of drinks. Sometimes for breakfast it was coffee or like milk and juice, and then for food it was just like I mentioned, the carbs, the veggies, and the protein. So I really liked it. And then they had like salt and pepper on the side if you wanted to season your food to your liking, and fruits, and it was great. I love the food there. Okay, so the Pitocin part. I was really nervous for the Pitocin part because that's where I heard the pain was going to happen. Because once you get Pitocin, you start feeling the contraction pain, and that's what I was worried about. Just because I've seen videos, I saw videos of women in labor and them breathing through the contractions, and it just looks very painful. So I asked the nurse, I was like, okay, the Pitocin goes through the IV, so it goes straight into your bloodstream. And I asked her, I was like, okay, so you're going to put Pitocin in now. How soon am I going to start getting contractions? Like, when will I feel it? And she said it's gradual. And I was like, okay, so I'll feel it like within a half an hour, within a couple minutes. And she's like, oh, well, everyone's different, but it's gradual. So I was like, all right. So gradually the contractions start getting more and more intense until, it caps out. And that's as intense as you'll feel the contractions. Well, it was not gradual at all. It was instant. So she put the Pitocin in the IV, and I was like, I'm gonna get up right now because I want to get on the labor ball before the contractions start getting worse. So she left the room. She put it in. She left the room. I got up immediately, pretty much. And as soon as I stood up, I got a contraction, like, but a really intense contraction that I just froze in place. And I was like attempting to breathe through it, but it was so painful. And I was just like looking at the ground and holding my husband's hand, and I just froze there, and I was attempting to breathe. And then my water broke. So as soon as that contraction happened, after I got Pitocin, my water broke. And I was like, was it so painful that I peed, or did my water break? Because this was really painful. I don't know if people pee when they feel pain. I don't know. I've never gone through this before. So she walks right back in after that happened. And I told her, I think my water broke. And then she put like this, when you first get a puppy and you buy those blue things that they have to pee on, like pads, but they're like the big ginormous ones. Well, yeah, she got that and she had me put it around myself. Okay, so my camera stopped recording, and I'm going to re-record this part. So it's the next day. It is almost 7 p.m. Got an outfit change going on, but the ending did record. It was just like a chunk in the middle because the camera has like a max out of 30 minutes. And for some reason, I didn't notice that I wasn't recording anymore. So I'm going to re-record this part just so that the video can match the audio. And yeah, so this is the part where I get the epidural and go into labor. So it's pretty much the ending. So after my water broke, that's where we were. After my water broke, I knew in that moment that I wanted an epidural, which pretty much just numbs you from the waist down, because the pain was way too much for me. Like, I was like, if I'm gonna feel this for 5 more minutes or 8 more hours or however long labor is going to take, I do not want to feel this pain. Like, it was way too painful. I was having a difficult time breathing. One of the breathing techniques I had learned about was the hee hee hoo. So like you breathe in and then you breathe out while you're having a contraction, so you're able to manage the pain, or just so your body relaxes and the pain isn't as intense. But there, no, like, it was not working for me. My voice was super shaky when I was trying to do the breathing, and I just kept crying and crying and holding my husband's hand, and he just kept telling me that I was doing a good job, and the nurse that was in there was telling me that I was doing a good job and to keep breathing. But I was having a difficult time getting through those breaths. It was way too shaky, and I was just crying so much. And I kept looking at the ceiling and trying to count whatever dots and lines that I would see up there, like in my head, to try to distract myself. So I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just counting whatever little things I saw in the ceiling to distract myself as I was doing the breathing. But it was really intense. I don't know how long before I got the epidural I was going through the contractions, because the epidural takes a really long time to, like, it's not immediate. Like, somebody doesn't just walk in and inject you and then boom, done. It's a whole process of them setting everything up, getting ready, you signing a form, them doing everything they need to do to make sure that everything goes well with the epidural. And they also kicked out my husband when I was going to get the epidural, and he said it felt like forever that he was gone. So it must have been something like 20 minutes or over 20 minutes. And it was pretty intense. I think at this point I was just in so much pain I didn't care, and I was just going through everything and taking it one step at a time, and breathing through my contractions. I was holding the nurse's hand during the epidural, and I was squeezing her hand, and she was just being encouraging. And I remember there's like 4 different people in the room, and they like opened the gown and put things in my back. And the woman that was going to do the epidural, she was saying that to keep communicating and letting her know, just as I was doing, letting her know that a contraction's coming. And she's like, I'm not gonna do anything while you're having a contraction. But from other people, I've heard that they do put the epidural needle in when you're having contractions so that you don't feel the needle pain as bad. But I'm not sure if she did that or if she just waited for me for my contraction to go away. I'm not sure. But the pain of getting the epidural needle did not hurt as much as a contraction, so I was okay with it. And it honestly, I didn't really feel it too much. Yeah, I was uncomfortable, but it wasn't like too bad or as bad as everything else. So I guess just at that point my pain tolerance was just a lot higher. So I also wanted to add, because I was listening over, because the recording of the audio did say from last night, it was just the video that didn't. I was talking about how my brain was mush, and how like my brain, there was like gears trying to turn, and how I wish I could have told the story in a better way. And I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was funny that I was feeling super out of it. I'm feeling like a lot better today, and I could actually think. And plus, I had the practice of yesterday to go over the story, but I felt like as I was telling the story yesterday, it was so difficult to think about everything that happened and every step that came after. But I'm glad I was able to tell you that story in 5 minutes, because it took me half an hour yesterday to say this part. But it's not over. I just thought that was funny. Poor Linda, old Linda. Okay, so now we're moving on to, I got the epidural and I could finally breathe and relax, and I felt so good. And from there it just felt like easy, a breeze. And I thought that during labor, the room's going to be full of people. There's going to be the doctor telling you to push. But what was a surprise to me was that it was just a nurse and my husband. So after I got the epidural, they told me to push the button every 15 minutes so that the epidural fluid, I don't know what it's called, so I'm just going to say that the fluid can go into my back and into my spine, and, you know, it like numbs it more. But I kind of regretted putting a little bit too much, because when it was time to push, it like slowed, not slowed down, stop my contractions, not stop my contractions, like see, now I'm having brain farts because I'm thinking about parts that I skipped, but it made it so that I couldn't feel the contractions, which wasn't good. So before the labor part started, I also had mentioned that I wasn't able to move my legs. So they had a nurse come in and put like a pad under with handles and like a huge long cloth, kind of like a pad, so that they can move me around because I wasn't able to move my legs around. And my husband was doing a lot. Like he was doing everything the nurses were telling him to, like move the pad one way, move my legs another way, lift my leg this way, get this or grab that. And it was kind of like he was a nurse in the room pretty much. I know he wasn't, but it felt that way because he was doing a lot. I was very thankful for him being there and all the help because it was way different than I had envisioned things to go. But they brought like this, it's kind of like a yoga ball, but it's called a peanut ball. And it's kind of shaped like a beauty blender, kind of like a peanut. There's a lot of different kind of beauty blenders. One of them, it's kind of shaped like a peanut, like an hourglass. And I have a picture of it. We'll see if I post it in this video. And I was just hugging that, and the nurse said that I would get dilated faster, and I did. Like I kept getting more and more dilated until I was 10 centimeters. I believe that's like when you can start pushing. Some people recommend waiting a little longer. Some people say just go as soon as you reach 10 centimeters. I'm not sure what's best. So, time to push. They switched out the nurse again, and the new nurse was telling me how to push, and it was just my husband and her. And they put my legs up on these things. I don't know what they're called, but they said to hold my breath and to push and then go back down, catch my breath and then push, go back down, catch my breath and then push. Like my husband was helping me prop me up while I was pushing and like holding my thighs to push. But like I mentioned earlier, it was difficult to push because I got distracted because I have my doggy in here with me today and he's stretching. Okay. So it was because I didn't feel contractions, and you need to push when you feel contractions. So there was a monitor next to me, and they were telling me kind of when a contraction was coming. Like we were kind of guessing, and I pushed a couple times, and I was starting to feel discouraged because they were telling me that they kind of saw the head, but that I was shaky and that I wasn't pushing too well. But they were attempting to encourage me. And I remember that you could bring a mirror in there, but I was like, to see, how the head looks or how you're pushing. But I was like, I don't want a mirror because that's kind of creepy and gross and scary, and I don't want to see that. But I ended up saying, can you please bring the mirror in, because they kept saying that they could see the head. And I was like, okay, well, when I push a certain way, they say they see the head, but then when I push a different way, they don't. And I was like, okay, the best route to go is with the mirror so that I could see when I'm pushing right, and to continue to push that way and like correlate the two. So when I'm seeing the head, then I must be pushing right. So that's how I should push. So they brought the mirror in, and as soon as they brought the mirror in, a couple pushes and the baby was ready to come out. They had to tell me to hold back because the doctor wasn't there yet and someone needed to catch the baby. So I was just there like breathing because I could feel like a pressure, but it didn't hurt. It was just like I could feel something was there. And then they took the mirror away, and the doctor came in and they told me to push, and I'm like, am I pushing right? And the doctor said, well, even if you're not pushing right, nature's doing its thing, or even if you're not pushing, nature's doing its thing. So I ended up getting a tear, second degree. So first degree is a little tear, second degree is like a bigger tear, and then third degree closer to, back area, like tears all the way up, your booty. So I was glad that it was second and not fourth, because fourth is like all the way. And I don't want to even imagine how the healing process was for that, because it has already been difficult now. just from getting the second degree. And it's like the healing part has been the most difficult because I'm breastfeeding and I'm sitting on the stitches and I'm getting like these pains from constipation and the stitches recovering and my stomach recovering, and the sitting down is just painful. I'm doing a lot better now, but I told my husband, I was like, I want another baby after I had, like, after labor. And like a couple days after, I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready for labor. I want to do this again. Like, that wasn't so bad. But the part that made me be like, okay, actually what? I don't know if I'm ready for another baby. Obviously not right now, but I don't think I'll be ready for another baby because the aftermath is what's really difficult. At least for me, it was really difficult just because of the pain, the frustration, the lack of sleep, everything that comes with becoming a parent, a new parent. But I'm sure that after all this is over, I'll be ready again. It's just been a lot. So now I'm going to let the rest of the video that was already recorded play. But before we move on, I quickly want to mention two things. One thing is, after the baby is born, they put the baby a little bit up your stomach so that they make sure the umbilical cord doesn't get stuck or is long enough. And then my husband ended up cutting the umbilical cord and they put the baby like on my chest, and he started looking around, which was crazy because his neck muscles, I was like, oh, are you sure your neck muscles can handle that? And he was like moving his head, looking around. And then he started eating right away, latching onto the breast. And I was like, wow, that was fast. And then they take him away, they weighed him and put his footprints on a little paper that said when he was born. He was born January 17, 2 weeks early. His due date was January 29. He weighed about 6 ounces and 6 point something ounces. I mean, pounds, and then something ounces. I don't know what the ounces were. Probably like 14 ounces, 6 pounds, 14 ounces. And he was almost 20 inches, and his name is Ezra. Finally announced it, so I can tell you guys, Ezra Orion Adams. And it took forever to come up with that name. We looked through like thousands of names, so many names. So then they move you to another room, which is where you recover, and they just watch over you and make sure that you and the baby are doing good, and they're constantly checking out your vitals and doing hearing tests on the baby, taking the baby's first bath, making sure everything is good for another 24 hours. And then you're allowed to leave, but you gotta either leave in a wheelchair or leave with the baby in a stroller. You can't hold the baby and walk out. So that's pretty much like the ending of the labor part before going home. I just really wanted to mention that for moms who soon to be moms or future mamas that haven't had a baby yet, so they kind of have an idea, or even partners or anyone that was curious about that. And the second thing I wanted to mention that I didn't mention yesterday, that I was like, oh man, I wish I would have mentioned it. And I'm glad it's like a love-hate thing that my camera stopped recording, but I'm glad because I'm able to mention this. One of the advices that I didn't say in the ending of this recording that you guys will hear soon is communication. So my advice is to really communicate what you need and don't let people overstep your boundaries, and you really come first, because your recovery, your mental health, your well-being comes first. And there may be some people that are really excited to see the baby, but you're not ready for that. And just communicate. And sometimes there's going to be a lack of communication and things may be misunderstood. Some people may think you don't want to see them, or you don't want them to see the baby, or you're refusing help, or things like that. But it's really up to you, like what you want, what you need, and what really matters, like what you really need to do, like, is take care of yourself and do what's best for your own sanity and your own health and your baby's health. And just really communicate, because that's something big that I've learned, and sometimes people may misunderstand you, but when you communicate, things will get cleared up. So don't get discouraged if you feel pressured by people, or you feel like you're coming off the wrong way, because you really matter at this point. Like, your health, your well-being, your brain health matters. So put yourself first and your baby, and then everyone else can come second. That's all I wanted to mention that I didn't mention yesterday. So I'll let the rest of the video play out that was already pre-recorded. All right, guys, my camera battery died. I don't know where we left off or how we left off, but I was pretty much saying that I was ready to have another baby after labor, but after everything that I've gone through now, like the aftermath or whatever comes after labor, that's where now it's like, I don't know if I want another baby. I mean, I do, but that's just how I feel now, because I feel like this has been a lot longer than labor, and has been kind of a toll, or like it's just been a lot of work, and it's very draining and stressful times right now. But I'm thankful, and when I'm able to get a little sleep and rest and break, then I'm like, I can do this, I got this. But pretty much now, after I've had the baby, because he was due January 29 and he came January 17, it is now February 9th. It's almost gonna be midnight. Valentine's Day is coming. I'm excited. I am looking forward to it. We're gonna attempt to have our first date with a newborn. It's been very interesting getting to see how the new life is with a newborn, and now I'll get into that. I don't want to keep ranting on and on about this, but how it's going. So I haven't really slept. In the beginning, when we got the baby back, he still had a little bit of amniotic fluid in his lungs or stomach, or I don't know where. So he'd sleep and then he'd start gagging, and I hadn't changed a diaper since I was like 13, and even then I didn't change that many. So I've been learning a lot, and I've still had the home nurse come and continue to teach me things. She brings like her folders full of pamphlets, or not flyers, I don't know, all these papers with all this information. She's texting me, sending me videos. I've gone to a lot of pediatric visits and a lot of doctor visits, and we've had the family visit, we've had the announcement pictures, we've gone to the ER. I've gone to a lactation consultant a couple of times. I've looked up a lot of videos, read articles. My husband's read a bunch of articles, looked up a bunch of videos on how to do this, why that, how this. It's a lot of research. He's off work right now. He's going to be going, well, he already kind of went back a little bit, but he's officially going to be going back next week. I think this is his last week, and then he's going to be going back next week full time. So right now he's kind of part-time, a little bit on and off. And I don't know when I'll go back to work. We'll see. I'm figuring that out. I love marketing, photography, videography, content creation. I love this, obviously, podcast, even though I don't make money off of this. I mean, in the future, I would love to. Just telling my experience and building a community. I really love podcasting because of that, and just connecting, communicating in the future with guests. But now I'm going off onto a rant. So how it's going. I don't really sleep. I am breastfeeding, which is very difficult. That's why we went to the ER, was because I thought, they told me I did have breast milk. But it turns out I wasn't feeding my baby, and he was dehydrated, and he also had a little bit of jaundice, which is, they turn kind of yellow. And I don't know too much about jaundice, because fortunately, it went away for him and I didn't have to deal with that. But I was really really scared when I went to the ER because I saw him in like bright light, because I've been in a cave in my room. I hadn't gone out, and I hadn't looked at him at like bright light, and I noticed that he was yellow, his lips were chapped, and he just looked ill, and like all these symptoms of jaundice, and just sleeping a lot or crying a lot, and he just wasn't himself. And I was really really scared, and attempting to hold it all in. And it's been a lot of nervousness, like, is he still breathing, like is he okay, can I leave the room and have the camera monitoring him and have it on my phone, this video camera. And just a lot of worrying about him, that like, is he still breathing, because there was like this whole SIDS thing, sudden infant death syndrome, and pretty much they like suffocate, or they don't know why, they pass. But it's been a lot to learn, and I just take it one step at a time, one day at a time, continue to remind myself, like, this is my first time having a baby. Like, I just became a mom. I have a great partner that is there for me and supports me and loses sleep with me, and is always checking in on me, and not being too hard on me for losing my temper, and just really really supportive. And I'm very thankful for my whole community that I have, of my friends that cheered me on along the way, continue to cheer me on and congratulate me, and just everyone that is in my life, even the strangers that were kind to me while I was pregnant, and the strangers that are kind to me now that I'm a mom with my stroller. And it's been very good, and it's been very difficult, but I've been taking it one step at a time. Like I said, it's all a mental game. Like, if I tell myself I can't do this, I can't go through this is too painful, this is too difficult, then that's what my whole life is gonna be. And same with the whole induction thing and going through labor. Like, if I told myself I can't do this, I'm not gonna be able to get through this, then it would have been a lot more anxiety. I would have been full of anxiety. And I've really learned that it's all a mental game. It's all about what you say to yourself, and also learning about yourself. Like, right now, one of the most difficult things that I've been going through has been breastfeeding, because they need to learn how to latch on correctly, and you need to unlatch him, relatch him, unlatch him, relatch him, and it's very painful. And I mean, obviously everyone has different levels of pain, but for me it's painful to latch him on and unlatch him, and it's frustrating. And with my stitches, and I also got hemorrhoids because of pushing, and I was constipated, I had colon pain, and I was doing all these things for that, like sizzle bath, suppositories, stool softener, drinking a lot of water, doing every step that I need to heal my stitches. And you'll learn that if you're a mom to be, and you haven't learned that yet, but you'll get through it. It's things that you go through, but that you learn a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't feel overwhelmed trying to take it all in so quickly. It's like, you'll get the hang of it, and you'll learn everything along the way. Just take it one day at a time, one thing at a time. You don't have to do all these crazy things, try to learn all these things in one day. It's like, it takes time. It takes practice, and it's okay if you don't know it, and everything. And you're learning, your baby's learning, your family, your partner, your friends, we're all learning together during this journey. Even if some family and friends have already been moms, even they are learning how to give you space or how to communicate. We're all just learning together, and that's part of life. And really just congratulate yourself on the things that you've done. Remember your blessings and all the things that you should be grateful for. And that's been the biggest thing for me. So having a peace of mind when I'm breastfeeding, because I would get a lot, I get a lot of anxiety when I breastfeed. And I looked it up, And it turns out I'm not crazy. Like, it's an actual thing. You get anxiety. Some people get anxiety when they're about to breastfeed. I don't remember the name of it. I just found this out today or yesterday. Like I said, the times are like meshed because not sleeping. So I don't know when I found out, but it was a relief because I was like, why do I feel so sick when I'm about to breastfeed? I was like, am I crazy? Like, am I making this up? But no, it's an actual thing. Because of hormones and a lot of other things, like knowing that I'm about to feel pain and the stress that comes with it and everything. But I'm getting through it, and little by little I'm recovering and I'm learning. So things are slowly getting better, and I know that there's going to be hurdles and new challenges that are going to come, but I keep reminding myself that this is a season. I need to slow down, and it's about my baby, my family, my husband, my health, my doggy, and friends. Like, even not friends, because like I've been not caged in, but like I haven't left the house. I've been attempting to leave the house. That's another thing that I've been doing to keep me positive and happy, is getting out of the house, getting some sun, going on a walk, and just talking to friends, sharing about the baby. That made me really happy, taking pictures of the baby and finally announcing him and seeing cute little pictures of him, taking cute pictures of him in his tiny little clothes. And ow, 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 ow. If you're breastfeeding, your breasts do this thing where they like tighten when it's like almost time to feed. And for me, it hurts a lot. And I'm like feeling that right now. So pretty much almost been here for an hour doing this podcast. I would have loved to like keep going, but it's a lot to share and a lot to take in. But if you guys want me to share more about this, like more about my labor experience and in detail of like what happened after labor and what I'm going through now, then I'm open to share. But for the breast pain, if you're going to breastfeed, you do leak sometimes, but there's like these pads that you use for your, so you don't leak and get messy everywhere. There's nursing bras so that you don't have to take like your bra off. You just like unclip. There's different like nursing clothes, so it's not a struggle to like breastfeed. It's a lot smoother. There's nipple cream to help with the chapped nipples. There's lactation consultants to tell you what you're doing right, what you can do better, how you can adjust yourself, different positions for the baby. And that's pretty much it for the breastfeeding here on my notes that I had. But you'll learn a little bit at a time. So don't worry too much, and you'll get through it. Just remember, it's all about how you speak to yourself in your head, and just continue to say positive things and surround yourself with encouraging people. And if people aren't encouraging, then don't listen to them, and you'll do great and you'll get through it. So let's see, do I have any other recommendations or advice, tips? I would say, if you're religious, pray, talk to God, let God know like what you're going through. I'm sure he already knows, but just talk to him and tell him what he can help you with and how he can support you and what he can do for you. Get out of the house when you can. Be safe. Protect yourself and your baby. You don't want to go in crowded places. So just, you'll learn like one step at a time, and continue to speak to yourself in a positive way, and just take care of yourself. So that is all, guys. I think that's my baby crying right now. So you see, when my boobs started hurting, baby started crying. So it is a thing. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for joining me. I wish I was able to like be fully present, because I feel like I was in and out during this whole podcast. But if it benefited anyone, then that was the goal. And now I have the story to go back to in case I forget something in the future. Now I'll know how my birth story went or labor went. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for being here with me and listening to my story. I'm out of here. My baby's crying. I can't wait to see him. Even though I'm always seeing him and I'm tired and I want to put him down, I also can't wait to see him. So, see you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.